Breaker Crunchers, welcome to another edition of Couch Crunchers. Today I have with me,
Sam, the movie mechanic, as always.
and
Actually,
it's just
it's just my second time, as always.
well, hopefully we have you on more often. We like having you. So today it's just going to be Sam and I. So Lance is actually getting his eyes fixed, which he's very excited about. He's got LASIK today, um, so he's not going to be with us. And Max, the lucky punk, he's traveling around in Europe for the next couple weeks, so we won't see him. Um, but
Just the two of us holding down the fort.
yeah, and you know what? I think we can do it. I think
Yeah.
we're man enough.
So Max is in Europe, huh?
Yeah, he's going to a bunch of different places. Actually, I've been seeing posts from his family. I think some of his family's already there. I don't know if they're meeting up or what,
Oh.
but
Well, I've
um,
never been to Europe. You ever been to Europe?
I spent 2 weeks in Europe. It was right after I graduated, and I had some crazy stuff happen, man. I was in France for a week, and I was in England for a week, and the first 3 days were the best 3 days because it was kind of a weird mashup. Like me and one of my best friends growing up was always my cousin Howard, and Howard and I were going to go on this big trip after we graduated, and so we did. We went to Europe, but Howard's mom came, and so my aunt was with us, and then my brother was like, I never did anything for my graduation, and he's like, I want to go. So my brother came too. So it was like my aunt, my brother, and my cousin. We went to Europe, and the first 3 days my aunt was super sick, and so it was just my brother, my cousin, and I, and we had so much fun. um, but man, I have so many stories from then. Like there's one where there's a really funny one where we just ran into this couple. They started talking to us. There's this really nice couple, and they started talking to us about this club. Like we wanted to go dancing. We were talking about that. We were like, we're in France. We got to go dancing one night. Actually, Howard and Austin were saying that. I was just kind of like, I don't know how to dance, and I'm a little bit terrified of that. But I'll go with you guys. And so this nice couple, they told us about a club, and we were like, okay, where is it? And they gave us some directions, and it was not anywhere near where they said it was.
Oh, this is starting to sound like the beginning of Taken.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, I was like, can I have Liam Neeson with us now? That'd be great. But no, it was a terrible situation because what ended up happening is my brother and my cousin, we're all single at the time, and they had much more confidence than I did, and they were just like the only people they would talk to is like groups of incredibly beautiful women, and there were just like tons of them all over in France. They were just walking around, groups of them like crazy. Like it seemed like 90% of the women in France were just like incredibly beautiful women. And so we're walking around, and that's all they would talk to, and they were asking for directions for this place. And for unbeknownst reasons, we were getting very bad directions from everyone. And we ended up finding the place finally. It was on the Champs-Elysees, right? So you ever heard of the Champs-Elysees?
Champs Elysees, yeah, that's the main street. That's where you got the big circus, right? The big circle, traffic circle, and the Arc de Triomphe or whatever you call it.
Yeah, the Arc de Triomphe or whatever. Yeah. And so yeah, it's like there's songs written about the Champs-Elysees, right? It's like the most popular street in France. And I'm like, why did nobody just say it's on the Champs-Elysees? Like why are we walking in circles? So we finally get there, and and we're like not dressed up, right? Like I am in like a football t-shirt and gym shorts, and so are like my brother and my cousin. We're just like wearing these like very American like athletic clothing. And and the bouncer kind of looks at us, and the bouncer ended up being American as well. And he came up and started talking to us, and he said, "Hey guys, you know that this is a gay club, right?"
They led you astray, man. You thought
Yeah.
they thought they were getting chicks, and they would have ended up in the gay club, the Blue Oyster.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, so you guys were super smooth with all these women. They just all thought we were gay. So that.
Oh yeah, we know the clubs that you want to attend. We know the perfect club for you. We.
And then we just went back and we're thinking, why did this couple who told us about this club, why did they think that that's where we would want to go? We did
Because
not.
it was just a bunch of guys hanging out. You should have had your mom there to chaperone,
Yeah, I
keep
guess.
you out of trouble.
But yeah, man, there are all kinds of stuff that happened like that. The very next night, actually, we went to the Eiffel Tower. We actually we were just walking through France, doing all kinds of stuff. Like, we didn't know what anything was really. This was before smartphones and everything. So we saw something. We didn't really know what it was. We were just like, that looks cool. Let's get pictures by it and everything. So we do that, and by nighttime we make it to the Eiffel Tower, and we're just there taking goofy pictures, and then there's this group of British girls that show up, and they're all laughing, and obviously most of them are inebriated, and and they are super confident, and one of the girls comes right up to my cousin and she says, excuse me, but I need a pair of boxer briefs.
Okay. Did she run out?
I guess I don't. And so he's like, what? And she said, your boxers, I need them right now. And he's like, no, no, I'm not going to do that. And
If that's a
so,
pickup line, we're a match made in heaven.
yeah. And so anyway, she was, she was kind of pretty, but she wasn't like super pretty, but she was, just uber confident, just like, you're for sure going to do this for me. And then so she couldn't get him to get get his boxers off. So she starts saying, well, fine then, I need a kiss. And so she begs him and begs him, and she's like, I've never had to work this hard for a kiss in my life. and
Yeah.
and
You
and
got to
so
be
finally,
careful kissing drunk girls, man. I tell you, that is a recipe for disaster.
yeah,
I've seen way too many videos. Way
well,
too
I
many
mean,
videos.
and you never, I mean, British girls, you don't know what their breath's gonna be like, I mean, could be anything happening there. But
I don't know if that's a stereotype. I don't know if that stereotype's accurate.
it's
But
the bad
okay,
teeth,
we'll roll with it.
it's
We'll
the
roll with
bad
it.
teeth brushing with fructose and stuff. It's the
Bad teeth and
Austin Powers
halitosis.
thing. Anyway, and that was kind of the time we went is when Austin Powers was out. So that was
So see, that's why they sent you to the gay club. That's why.
what?
That's because you didn't want to kiss them. That's why. They're like, you need to
No,
go to the gay
that was
club.
the night before. That was the night before.
They saw it ahead of time. They must have been psychic.
Yeah, I guess. What was in those drinks? I don't know, man.
I don't know, man.
But yeah, so anyway, he ends up kissing her, right? He just does this little peck. And then my brother comes over, and he was talking to somebody else. He comes back over, and she does the same thing. But she says to him, she's like, I need 24 more kisses tonight. Do you want to be one of them?
She's got a quota.
Yeah.
She's got to make her kissing quota.
but here's the thing, right? Like, so my brother, he just goes, oh yeah, sure, and he kisses her.
Yeah, you want to get in there early versus later.
Yeah, but then
you don't know who you're swapping spit with later on in the night.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think either of them did tongue, so that was probably a good choice. But
well, you know what they say: when in Rome,
or
France. When in France, kiss as the French do.
But yeah, and then they just left. They just walked away, and I was just like, okay, I didn't really want to kiss you, especially after you just kissed my cousin and my brother, but you didn't even
They
ask
didn't
me.
even ask
You
you.
didn't even ask.
They didn't even bother. They're like, nope,
I was so
nope.
offended.
Oh, that's too much, man.
And then they go over, and there's this cop car sitting there, and the next thing I see is just her. She's leaning in the cop's window and she's kissing the cop.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, you probably dodged a bullet there, but I bet the guys at the gay club were willing.
Yeah, that I probably would have had a lot more luck there. I didn't have any luck with the women, that's for sure. But but it was just funny. Like, that's France. You just reach into the car and kiss the cop, I guess.
Wow.
But the story does not end there. Actually,
Oh, there's more.
the story ends the next week in England.
Wait, so
We
you went from France, then you went the next week to England.
Then the next week to England, and so we were in the metro, and once again, just me, my brother, and my cousin. We're in the metro. I see this girl. She's like 15 people up from us on the escalator, and I'm like, dude, that is definitely the girl from the Eiffel Tower. And they look at her and they're like, no. And I'm like, yes, it is. And then they're like, yeah, it is. That is the same girl that we saw last week at the Eiffel Tower. There's like, what, 10 million people in London or more? How many people are in London? Millions of people in London,
Millions
right?
of people, for sure.
And this we run into this girl on the metro,
What do you
and
know?
so we catch up to her, right? She's with her mom.
Ah, she's like, I don't know who these guys are. Just leave me alone. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we catch up to her, and my brother is like, hey, wake up, and she's like, what? And he's like, do you remember us? And she said, huh? And then she kind of looked at him, and then she goes like this, like she's like totally stunned, like, oh man, like I can't believe. And she whispered like, oh, I kissed you at the Eiffel Tower, you know.
Did you
And
blow her cover?
yeah. And so she's crazy embarrassed, and then she's just like, okay, well, guys, I'm sober now.
We can't have this conversation. I'm a different person in the daylight. I don't want this.
and so my brother just says, oh yeah, we weren't looking for another kiss or anything. We just wanted to say hi. And she's like, okay, hi. And she's like shrinking away, like pushing her mom, like, let's get out of here.
She's hiding behind her mom. She's like, Mom, these guys are creepers. Let's call Uncle Liam Neeson to come kill them. They're trying to kidnap me.
Anyway, yeah, it was hilarious, man. It was, and that's just kind of the beginning, man. There was so many things that happened that were just like blew my mind. Like, the odds of them happening were just so low. But yeah, it's a really fun trip, man. And hopefully Max will post some pictures, and maybe he'll even put some up on the website. We'll see.
Well, he's married, and I hope that he doesn't have the same kind of adventures that you and your brother and cousin had.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't have packs of girls coming to ask him to take his boxers off. But if he's anything like
Oh, that's
me,
too
then
much.
they'll just be asking everybody else.
Tyler, if I had the chance to go back in time, I would definitely ask you for your boxer briefs.
And you know what?
Just to make sure you didn't feel left out.
I would politely decline, but I would really appreciate it.
And then you'd have the story to tell about yourself rather than someone else.
Right. Yeah. No, I was just the guy with the camera taking pictures when this was all going down.
That's a great story, man. All right. Well, what are we doing tonight?
Well, tonight we have our Fab or Flub, of course, as always. And then we are going to be moving on to talking about Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix came out. It's kind of a big one, especially for all you X-Men fans out there. So yeah, let's jump into our Fab or Flub. We've got some interesting ones.
Let's do
Um,
it.
the first one is about Dave Bautista. Dave Bautista is the guy who plays Drax on Guardians of the Galaxy. And he is interested in playing Bane in the next Batman movie. What do you think?
Well, he certainly has the look of the comics Bane. Now, the iterations of Bane have been mixed in the movies. They're not really great representations of what Bane is supposed to be. His first appearance in the movies was Batman and Robin, where he's like a sidekick of Poison Ivy, and that he was just kind of this weakling guy, and then she juices him up, and he doesn't really say anything. He just kind of mumbles around, and he's the muscle, and she's the brain. And that's not really how he is in the comics, or even in Batman the Animated Series. He's from South America, so he's got a Latin accent. He's very intelligent, and he's very powerful. And yeah, he does essentially steroids, but it's called Venom. The particular brand of steroids is called Venom, and he's huge, and he gets real jacked up, and then he breaks Batman's back, like you see in The Dark Knight Rises. And I think the Dark Knight Rises version is trying to give a better, grounded, more hyper realistic type of Bane. He's obviously really strong. He's a bare knuckle boxer, um, and he's got the mask. They did a little bit different things with the mask. It kind of is reminiscent of like a dog's fangs or something, some kind of animalistic look to it, which is not the classic look for Bane, but it's one that worked for what they were going for. If they're going to go with a more classic cartoon type Bane, I think Dave Batista is really good choice for that. So I would say Fab all the way. I think Dave Batista has a lot of range. He does the Drax really goofy because that's what the character calls for. But he wasn't goofy in Blade Runner 2048 or 2049. I can't remember the exact year, but he wasn't goofy in that. He played a very serious role, very straight role, and he did a wonderful job, even though it was kind of a short part. He did a really good job.
And
And
I never saw that, so I didn't even realize he was in it.
yeah, he's in the first 5-10 minutes. He also plays one of the villains in one of the James Bond movies with Daniel Craig, and he's one of the guys hunting James Bond down to kill him, and he does a good job at that. But he doesn't really speak a whole lot. So I think Dave Bautista has a lot more range than maybe we've even seen, and I think if you want someone to play a muscular villain, he's probably the best choice out there right now.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% behind that.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think it's a fab. I'd love to see him playing that role, and honestly, like I really like that he's become more popular recently. Like like every time I go to the theaters, I see that trailer for Stuber, where he's the cop in the Uber ride, and I'm like so excited for that movie. Like I like watching the trailer over and over again because it's super funny, you know. But yeah, I think it would be great. I'm gonna just pull up real quick my screen, um, and just kind of show what we're looking at here. So this is ooh, it's showing a lot. Let me maximize that. So that's the fan art that was done online for Dave Bautista, and so I think it
now,
looks really good.
now, I don't necessarily love the fan art. Um, I think the mask that he's wearing in that particular rendering isn't the best mask for Bane.
Yeah,
But I think if you just take the mask off, I mean, Bane doesn't have to have the classic mask, or he could have it for part of the movie and then take it off for the rest of the movie. But um, I do love the idea of Dave Batista playing that role, and I think he would do a tremendous job.
yeah, no, I agree. Trying to get my thing to show, but here we go. So, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's kind of more of a luchador mask. They would need to change that up a little bit, but yeah, I mean, the other part is, talking about more like the comics or the cartoons. I think with the way that the DCEU is now, they could totally do that. It's more has that kind of feel than the Christian Bale Batmans did, where they could, Christian Bale was kind of going for the more realism, like you said, but in the recent DCEU, I feel like they could totally pull off a juiced up Bane that was more unrealistic, but kind of got that sci-fi feel to it. So I think that could totally work for this. So I'm
Oh,
fab as well.
oh yeah, for sure they could do that kind of thing. I think the issue with the DCEU is that they are going in like a half dozen different directions right now because they've got the Justice League has been going in one direction. Um, Apparently, Ben Affleck's out. Henry Cavill may be out. He may be in. We don't know. Then they're doing this Joker film. They're doing Suicide Squad, which is supposed to be in the Justice League continuity. Then you've got this Joker film, which is outside of that continuity, and then you've got the Batman with Robert Pattinson, which is apparently outside of that continuity. So I think the problem is they've got a lot of different balls in the air, and there's a lot of room for different interpretations of things. But I kind of want them to settle down. And I was happy with Ben Affleck. I was happy with Henry Cavill. I don't think the problem. I think we touched on this last time. The problem is not the casting; it's the story. And so I hope they can settle on a tone and a story that's going to work for everybody.
Well, I think part of the issue is time. They just wanted to rush the DCEU instead of take the time to really build up the characters the way that they should have. And it's made a giant mess because now they realized people didn't like that, and so they're trying to make movies that people like, but they're not fitting them in the in continuity wise, and so yeah, it's becoming a giant mess
Yeah.
because they're not able to accomplish both of those things.
Yeah, and I think that mess is something that's cropped up with Dark Phoenix, and I'm sure we'll touch on that later on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one. Uh, so, Stranger Things mobile game. I know that you said that you don't know a lot about the game or Ubisoft, but it is going to be like Pokemon Go, and you have a lot of experience with Pokemon Go.
Oh, I love Pokemon Go. Still play Pokemon Go to this day. I signed up almost 3 years ago. Pokemon Go came out July 6th, 2016. I signed up July 9th, 2016. And I've been an avid Pokemon Goer ever since. Go Team Valor.
Nice.
And level 40. I still get together for raids with my local raid group, and
Wow.
um, so if this is a game that's like that, more of an adventure style rather than a collection scavenger hunt type game, that could be fun. I mean, I thought it would have been. I think the format or the platform for the game is very versatile. There's another Niantic, who is the publisher for Pokemon Go. They are coming out with a Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Wizards Unite is the name of that game, and it's about going out and using spells and collecting beasts. So you get to choose what kind of player you're going to be, whether you're going to be a wizard or a beastmaster or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's a very versatile platform, and I think a lot of properties are looking to get into it because of how successful Pokemon Go is.
Well, I'm going to throw this into the mix though, okay? Because everybody kind of immediately went to Harry Potter with Pokemon Go because it makes sense, right? But this is supposed to be a puzzle RPG. So something where you're not fighting Pokemon, you're not collecting the Pokemon, you're not, doing duels, you're doing puzzles. So how would that work exactly? Do you think that would work well?
Here's what I think that they would try to do. So part of the Pokemon Go system is augmented reality. and you can get into an encounter with a Pokemon, and then you turn on the augmented reality, and it essentially puts the Pokemon in the frame with whatever picture you're looking at. And I think if you're going to do a Stranger Things type or Stranger Things Go type game, then you're going to have it be augmented reality, but instead of Pokemon or anything else, it's going to be the Upside Down and Demogorgons and Demodogs and Mind Flayers. All the things that they use in the series, you can put in kind of an augmented reality. You can also have puzzles, people trying to communicate you from the Upside Down. I can see it working a lot of different ways, and in order for it to be successful, it's going to have a lot of different game mechanics. Um, Pokemon Go's primary game mechanic is just walking around, and it works very well. You just get up and you go around and you see different things, and that you can interact with different things in the game. And I think with the Upside Down, you could do that too, but they're going to have to create a lot of things outside of the canon of the show in order to keep it going, because how many Demogorgons can you run into before it no longer becomes exciting?
What I think would be fun is some people play as humans and other people play as demogorgons.
Oh, there
And
you go.
you have to try to find a way to cross over and steal somebody, and like you get points when you like steal somebody over and like put them in the Upside Down.
Oh, okay. So you like the human trafficking potential.
Right. Yes. Demogorgon style, for sure. For sure. I want to make people's lights all going off in their house, like
Oh yeah. People who have the like one touch system on their phone that controls their lights. I could see that wreaking all kinds of havoc.
For sure. Anyway, yeah, no, I think it would be fun too. I think they could take it a lot of different directions, but um, we'll have to get more information. I'm all about more Stranger Things. Give me more Stranger Things. Even with the seasons of Stranger Things, come out faster than what you're doing right now. you know,
Yeah.
and give us more Stranger Things because I love it. I think that what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown, is that?
Yeah, that's right.
I think she's a fantastic actress. I think she's gonna be the next J Law, honestly, when she gets a little bit older. I think she's gonna take it over because she's awesome.
It's so funny. She was at Phoenix Fan Fest, which is like the wintertime Comic Con that Square Egg used to put on. And she and David Harbour were doing a convention tour, and they ended up at Phoenix Fan Fest. And that year, I was dressed as a Demogorgon, and she called me out of the audience, and she's like, "Hey, I want to see this Demogorgon." And so I stood up, I did a little spin for her, and she was like, "Oh, that's great." And she and David Harbour had tremendous chemistry on that panel. I know the relationship in the show is a little bit more serious, but in real life, they just are a lot of fun. And
yeah.
speaking of David Harbour, I don't know if you saw this. He had been asked by some girl to do senior photos with him, and she says,
Oh.
"How many retweets do I have to get to have you come do my senior prom or my senior photos?" And he goes, 25,000 retweets, and she got like 37,000 retweets, and he was good to his word. He showed up and he did all the senior photos, but his one condition was, I get to wear the school sweater and I get to hold the trombone.
Okay.
so if you're on the internet, you got to check out David Harbour's senior photos with the young lady.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to pull that up. That is so cool. I love it when they do stuff like that. And that is awesome that you got called out of the crowd. That's super cool. It's like
Yeah, she was a real sweetheart. I feel like she plays against type in a lot of her roles because she spends most of the time being serious and crying.
yeah.
And in real life, she's very gregarious and she never cries. She's just laughing all the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad she wasn't crying in the panel for sure.
Yeah, right.
But man, that's so cool. Well, all right, let's move on to the next one here. Lobo. Okay, so this one might be something that a lot of people haven't seen because apparently the ratings for Krypton were not good for the first episode of season 2. But Lobo was at the end of the first episode, and it turns out that they're talking about doing a Lobo spin-off series developed by Sci-Fi. What do you think?
Okay, Lobo as a character, he was always one of my favorite characters from the Superman animated series, which they tried to do in the same style as Batman the animated series. It was never as good as Batman the animated series, but Lobo was a highlight because he was just off the wall, crazy space biker bounty hunter character, and he was so crazy, and he would just howl all the time, and just he was just a lot of fun. And I like the idea of a Lobo series because there's a lot of adventures a bounty hunter can get into. I mean, we just watch Dog the Bounty Hunter where he runs around. We'll watch hundreds of episodes of Dog chasing down people who skip their bond or their hearings for like petty crimes.
Yeah.
Lobo's the kind of guy, he goes after actual criminals, not just petty criminals. And I mean, Dog the Bounty Hunter's never he's never gone after anybody incredibly dangerous. I think one time he went into Mexico to go after somebody who was a felon, and he ended up getting arrested. And I think actual as an actual bounty hunter, Dog the Bounty Hunter just goes after the small prey, which is fine. I mean, he doesn't want to get shot in his show and then have to end everything. But Lobo in Lobo's series, he would go after real big prizes, real big bounties, and there's a lot of potential there for a big series. I think that's a good idea. I think it's a fab idea. I do have concerns about Sci-Fi being the showrunner. I mean, Sci-Fi, they are mostly miss on their series, but they have a few gems. They have a couple out there that are really, really fascinating. I know The Magicians is doing really well. I think that's probably the only show right now that's doing real well on Sci-Fi.
Is
So go ahead.
Killjoys on Sci-Fi?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that is a Sci-Fi series.
I think that one did pretty well.
Yeah, but they, like I said, they have a lot of misses and a few just incredible gems. So, um, I hope it becomes a hit. Krypton, the series Krypton, is actually pretty decent. It's not necessarily following the DC canon. They do take some liberties, but it is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I was excited about it when I first heard about it because I actually heard about this news before I had seen the episode. But after seeing the episode, I'm a little bit leery about it. Like you said, I'm fab about the idea. I think it would be a cool show to watch, but I didn't really like how he looked in the show. He's only on screen for a minute or maybe a little more, but you can tell he's a likable character already.
Sure.
But man, I felt like his look was poorly executed, and when you're kind of just starting there and that's all the information you have is like a minute on screen and what he looks like, and I'm just kind of like, well, his personality is fun, but like his look is bad. Like that's already half of it. That's like not doing great with me. And
Yeah, it's
so,
like the first Deadpool from X-Men Origins.
yeah,
The idea of Deadpool is awesome, but the way that they tried to execute it in that show was terrible.
but you know what? They did a good thing and they just re-executed it with the same actor, and it worked out great. you know?
Yeah, and hopefully that's what happens with Lobo. They find somebody who's going to get the right look, the right feel, and they're going to make it as zany and as off the wall as it needs to be.
Yeah. And I think they could even do the same guy. It's just like, I don't know, the makeup's all weird. His contacts look stupid. Like it looks like he
Yeah,
has paintballs for eyes, is what it looks like.
yeah,
So anyway, it's I hope that they do well, but I'm also even just not sure that they're gonna even do it because Krypton's not doing well. So we'll see if it even happens.
yeah. And again, so that's a mix: fab flub, fab idea, flub, potential flub that Sci-Fi is the one helming the project because they could fumble this one like they have many series.
Yeah. And some
I,
of their good series, they even just do it for one season and then quit.
Yeah, I was watching a sci-fi original movie called Six-Headed Shark Attack. this afternoon. I was like, I hope this isn't the same people who are gonna do Lobo, because six-headed Lobo attack. I mean, that actually could work, but I'm not interested in that level of production value.
I was thinking you were going to say Fab on that for a second. It sounded
It was
fantastic.
so ridiculous. Like, oh my gosh, six-headed shark attack. It's basically a shark, and it's got so many heads, they go all the way around, and it just kind of spins. It just kind of spins through the water, chopping the poor people who are just trying to get to shore.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, on that note, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get the heck away from six-headed shark attack.
All right, so I'm actually going to skip the next one. I'm going to move on to number 5 here on the list, because number 4 is for Dark Phoenix. So we'll come back to that just before we start the Dark Phoenix talk. But Star Trek, Quentin Tarantino, his Star Trek movie is confirmed to be rated R. What do you think?
Well, life is rated R in a lot of ways. I'm not sure where he's going to go with it, except for if it follows the pattern of all the other Quentin Tarantino movies, it's going to be violent, and it's going to be long, and there's going to be a lot of foul language. And I kind of am excited about the prospect of having space be a little bit darker this time around, rather than how it usually is depicted as being kind of like the new Royal Navy. Star Trek has kind of always been very stuffy and compared to like Star Wars, where you've got characters like Han Solo. I mean, Jim Kirk, although he is depicted as a rogue or someone who doesn't always play by the rules, he doesn't really go that far away from the rules. He does pretty much stick close to the rules, as long as he gets to take his shirt off half the time. And so it is kind of interesting, this idea that space could be a little bit darker, because space is a very dangerous place. That said, I'm not sure where he goes with the story. They were talking about getting Chris Hemsworth to come back as George Kirk. And I think you mentioned in the headline that he's not coming back. And I think Chris Hemsworth, his star is still on the rise. I think he's doing a lot of punching his own ticket these days. Hopefully he gets some good movie choices under his belt. I know he doesn't want to spend a lot of time filming movies that he doesn't believe in, because he wants to spend more time with his kids. That said, I am a sucker for father-son relationships, and if they were able to bring in a father-son relationship for Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth, I would love that. I would totally dig that. So I'm kind of sad that it's not panning out right now with Chris Hemsworth. So again, let's break it down. So we've got Quentin Tarantino is one part, and then Chris Hemsworth is the other part. Is that
Yeah.
that's what we're fabbing or flubbing?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, what the Fab or Flub is the rated R aspect of Star Trek.
Yeah, the CBS All Access series is TVMA, so it's not like they're treading new ground with the rated R stuff. They do go pretty mature on that CBS All Access one. I think it's Star Trek Discovery.
Discovery, yeah, which I actually like that show, but
yeah, so it's not like he'd be the first one to go dark, but I think Tarantino does have a signature style that a lot of people would respond to. But my question is, are Tarantino fans going to get behind Star Trek, and are Star Trek fans going to get behind Tarantino? The reason why I ask that is sometimes mixing two things together creates something that neither the fans of the one or the fans of the other can get behind. As an example, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. The zombie fans aren't going to like that the zombies are taking a back seat to the Jane Austen type storytelling.
Right.
And the Pride and Prejudice people are going to get upset because of all the zombies that keep interrupting the love scenes. So is that what's going to happen here? Are the Tarantino fans going to be upset by all the stuffy Star Trek scenes, and are the Star Trek fans going to be upset at the fact that the tone of Tarantino's films are so different, so wildly different from what a traditional Star Trek episode is?
And this was my thought, okay, because I am a little bit of a Trekkie myself. I'm not as big as some people, but I've seen every movie, I've seen every series, um, and so I enjoy Star Trek, and so I when I first heard about this, I was like, that sounds terrible, that sounds horrible. But at this point, I have a lot of hope for this movie, and so I'm actually turned to a fab on this, and this is why. Almost every Star Trek TV series that I've seen has at least one episode where they have an alternate reality with like an evil version of themselves.
And he has
And
a goatee.
yeah, like they have that, and like the girls are wearing some more revealing clothing because that's how they do it in the evil side, and that's like what they do, and it becomes usually this thing where it's like, how do we change reality back to what it was? It's usually something happens in the past or something, and then reality changes in the future, and then something has to happen to revert it back. And so if they go that route, if they go with that classic idea that Star Trek has done many times, then I think it could work. If it's like this alternate reality that there's still like a good character who knows that the original reality exists, and he's trying to get get it back to that, you know.
Sure.
And so I think that that could work out really well. I think in that case Tarantino would be a good choice because he could make it really, because he's everything he's done is way darker than even Discovery is. Like Discovery doesn't touch Tarantino movies. Um, so, but when you're going with a high budget, you want a director who is experienced with that, and I think he could do a really good job if they went that route. It could turn out horrible. It could be that like terrible mixture that you're talking about, like zombies and Jane Austen. Like that doesn't really work very well. But I'm holding out hope, and I think if they do it that way, it's a fab.
Well, it's I'm gonna withhold my judgment. I think there's possibility for a good result. I do have concerns about it being a Pride and Prejudice and zombies type thing.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Next one. Robert Pattinson's Batman is rumored to be fighting 6 villains. These villains would include Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman, Two-Face, Mad Hatter, and Firefly.
And the Queen and the Vatican and let's see who else we could throw in there. Colonel Sanders, the Gettys, just get them all in there. You
Yeah,
know,
why not?
why not? Why not bring in? Let's bring Thanos and Darkseid and
Kingpin, yeah.
Kingpin. Let's bring them all. Let's put them all in there.
So I'm guessing you're a flub on this one.
It's going to be tough to manage. I mean, those are all iconic personalities. The point of a villain is that they are a mirror, a distorted mirror image of the hero. And Marvel movies, for all of the criticism they get for the villains that they use, they understand that principle. All the villains in the Marvel movies are just evil versions of the hero, with very limited exceptions. Now, Batman's iconic nemesis is the Joker, right? Batman has one rule, the Joker has no rules. And you can look at Catwoman. She's kind of the same way. Batman skirts the line between justice and vigilantism, and she skirts the line between petty thief and anti-hero. She kind of crosses over that line a lot like Batman does. But if you're stuffing all of these characters into a Batman movie, which aspect of the hero's personality are you really going after? It's just going to turn into an episode of American Gladiators where you just have them all line up and then whack him in the head with sticks as he tries to run through the gauntlet.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a flub for me too. I can see it basically as them trying to satisfy all fans, and then they're going to end up satisfying no fans. Like that's it's a poor attempt. It's the main thing that everybody was angry about with Spider-Man 3. You know, you had too many villains and not enough time to develop the villains in the way that they deserved.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, you you don't want to run the risk of the Sinister Six, right? That was the Sinister Six. And again, it's that same age old problem with the DCEU movies, which is they spend all this time casting the character, casting the actor, and they do such a great job of casting. And then they forget to hire the right screenwriter, the right storyteller. And it ends up being garbage because they haven't taken care of the only thing that
Details, man.
matters, which
It's
is
details.
story. Story's the only thing that matters. You don't cast whoever you want. They're actors. They can all do the part. I mean, you could put Patton
Kind of.
Oswalt as Batman and he could probably make it work. You just got to have a good story. Come on. A good story.
I agree. I mean, to an extent, of course, but yeah, you got to have a good story. Number one, um, there's no point in doing it when you're just going to like throw things out there. Like there's a guy that I used to watch who's called Ask a Ninja.
Oh
Have
yeah.
you ever you'd
Oh
love
yeah.
yeah,
I
you
remember
know Ask
asking
a
Ninja.
Ninja? Oh yeah, Ask a Ninja is so funny. So one of the things he talked about with one of the Pirates movies is he was just like it was like they took 3 or 4 different screenplays and loaded them into a shotgun and then just pulled the trigger. and
Yeah.
and that's the same thing. That's what it seems like they're doing. They're just loading it in and just pulling the trigger, and then they just have a PA go around and pick up random words and just hand it to the actors.
And the quote from that episode was, "It needed more gore and less Verbinski."
yeah, Les Berbinsky. That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's how do you make a movie without these? I feel like movie makers recently that are involved in these huge films are just losing this basic ideology of how you put a story together. It's just like you don't have to go to school for filmmaking to know that these are terrible ideas. Um, so I don't know. Total flub for me. I think it's going to fail miserably, which makes me sad. Um,
Yeah, I do want to point out that The Dark Knight toyed with the idea. You recall that in The Dark Knight, the Joker interrupts the meeting of all the different gangs, right? There's the Russians and the Italians, and you've got the all the mobs are there, right?
right. Yeah.
And it was toying with that same idea, but instead of putting a masked criminal or a supervillain at the head of each of those gangs, they just put regular folks, right? Regular criminals.
Right.
And I think they did a great job with that choice because it just would have been, you're like, why are we looking at the Penguin as a cameo? Why is he just a cameo?
Right.
Or why is Catwoman just a cameo as one of these gang leaders? Shouldn't they have their own movie? And I think that's what's going to happen here is you're going to have all these people come together. They're going to have bit parts, and it's going to miss the point of the villain entirely.
Yeah.
And it's going to flub. It is.
Yeah. And they're not going to have any pencil magic trick to make up for it. So,
Yep.
but it's a terrible idea. They're going to have to figure out something about what the fans want. I feel like they are just
You and
trying.
I, you and I both know what the fans want. The fans want more Jared Leto Joker. Hunka hunka, a hunka hunka hunka.
Yes, that's exactly what everyone wants. No, it's something where it's like, do they have any fans of DC that are part of the filmmaking? I feel like they don't.
Yeah, that's a great question. That is an excellent point. One of the things that I would love to see is DC movies being made by Marvel, because I think the Marvel screenwriters are probably better fans of DC comics than the DCEU writers are. They
Yeah,
don't seem to understand what these comics should be. And
yeah.
a good example is they hired Joss Whedon to go fix Justice League.
Right, right.
And then they hired James Gunn to go fix Suicide Squad. And these are Marvel guys, right? And they're just a fan of good stories, and so they're taking these people who know comics and they know comic storylines, and they're turning them into movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did a whole movie mechanic on Justice League and where I thought that should have gone. That could be a whole 2 or 3 episodes of podcast. So we don't need to get into that.
But it's something where I feel like they're out of touch. They're just very out of touch with fans, and it's very unfortunate because
Yeah.
it's something that we're really invested in already. And when you have a product, as somebody who's in business, you want to make money. You can't be out of touch with what your fan base wants. You already have a fan base. It's like that's like what every business owner wants is to already have clients waiting for you to bring out your product. Like that's what everybody wants, and they have that, and they're just throwing it down the drain.
Yeah. They're taking their pet and they're crushing it and
That's
then just
right.
letting the crumbs hit the ground.
That's right. All right, let's move on to our last Faber flub here. We've got the Dark Phoenix. It initially ended with including the scrolls from obviously from Captain Marvel, the scrolls. Um, it was going to end with Jean kind of blasting them in space, very similarly to Captain Marvel. Um, and they decided not to do that. Um, Fab or flub?
Okay. First off, they have the scrolls. The Dabari Parkers are the scrolls. They're shapeshifters. They can look like anybody they want to look like, but they're evil. And the Captain Marvel version of the scrolls they weren't evil. They just wanted to be left in peace, which is contrary to how the scrolls are portrayed in the comics. The scrolls in the comics are portrayed more like the Dabari Parkers from Dark Phoenix. Um, I'd never heard of Dabari before. I know Jabari Parker is a basketball player. I just kind of put them together. So that's why I'm saying Jabari Parker. I think it's funny. But I promise I won't say that joke. Maybe just one more time later on. Anyway, they had to do it. I mean, they had no choice. The way that the Skrulls were portrayed in Captain Marvel went completely against the way they were portrayed in Dark Phoenix. There was a lot of similarities between the two movies. They had to do it. It really wasn't a choice of whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. It was the only thing they could do. Disney came in and said, we're not going to have the same movie, so you need to come back and do the reshoots and figure this thing out, because otherwise it's just going to be Captain Marvel Part 2.
You know what I
So,
was just thinking of when you were saying that is the Animaniacs good idea, bad idea
oh yeah,
skeleton.
good idea. Doing your own yard work. Bad idea. Doing your own dental work.
Yeah. Yep, they could definitely make one of those with this. Same thing with having six villains. Good idea, bad idea. Yeah. No, yeah, it's obviously a fab that they did not do that. They um the way that the scrolls would have been portrayed, because they just basically changed the name, like you said. Um, they were portrayed, not only would have been too similar to Captain Marvel, but Talos was so good in Captain Marvel, is like one of my favorite parts of that about that movie. And they would have just made the Skrulls way less fun. Like they were so fun in Captain Marvel, and it would have messed it all up, you know.
Yeah.
So it would have been a terrible way to compete with Captain Marvel in that regard.
Sure.
But they and then they just didn't need, like, we want to have more female superheroes. That's what like lots of people are calling for. I'm on board with that, and we don't need them to be the same. We need them to be, you know, different, and at least having different endings to their movies.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
all right. So those are our Faber flubs. We're going to move on to talking about Dark Phoenix, our thoughts, our reviews. This is your spoiler warning. So if you have not seen Dark Phoenix, go ahead and tune out for now. And yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah, but then also come back to it because we want to see your ideas. So you can find this video on YouTube after we're done and listen to our commentary. Put in your own comments. We'd love to see them.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Dead Don't Die. We're going to talk about movies that we are excited to see later this year. So just do a little skippy, and come back to us. So what do you think, Sam?
Okay, so this is just so we're clear. I mean, the Dark Phoenix storyline was already addressed in X-Men Last Stand, which was the third X-Men movie. And uh, as everybody kind of already is aware, that was the weakest of the X-Men storylines of that first the first trilogy of X-Men movies. And they decided that it was worth taking another crack at it for this particular storyline. There are so many continuity errors with it, though, because at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, Jean Grey already has the Phoenix Force.
Yeah,
She uses the Phoenix Force against Apocalypse.
yeah. That's a little bit confusing.
So it starts out with them going up into space and rescuing the astronauts. And okay, so why is NASA even bothering with a space shuttle if Hank McCoy can make his own spaceship in his own garage?
Yeah.
Why isn't he hired by NASA to design space shuttles?
It makes no sense. It's just like, oh, we have to use all this rocket fuel, but no, we got the X-Men that could just fly right up there for us, you know?
Yeah, let's just plug them in like freaking hamsters on a wheel and have them generate all the space flight energy we need for the rest of civilization. It's like,
Well,
okay,
and then
go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Then just to add on to what you're saying, the other part of it is before their little soft reboot that they had from Days of Future Past, the Jean had the Phoenix all along then as well, since she was a kid, and that was what Xavier suppressed, was the Phoenix. He didn't just like block her memories of a terrible event. He suppressed the Phoenix so it wasn't coming out and destroying everybody. And so everything points to she already had the Phoenix. They didn't need to go to space, and the whole space thing is completely, utterly pointless and ridiculous, even though it should be a highlight of the storyline.
Yeah, what would have been better than space is a train. They should have put the whole thing on a train. Forget about Phoenix Force in space. Let's put the Phoenix Force on a train, and we'll just do the whole movie on the train. That'll make it 50% better at least.
I just wanted a glimpse on that train of Samuel L. Jackson and like strangling a snake or something, just like pan across it. Like
I am so sick of all these mother effing snakes on this mother effing train.
Anyway, yeah, man, I I just the continuity was bad. My other thing is, like, I know that Marvel has a power inconsistency issue, right, with superpowers, okay, and Fox obviously has this issue as well, making the Marvel movies. But there were some things that seriously bugged me in that movie about the powers, okay, and starting off, I feel like we're just barely getting through this because we're still on the space scene in the beginning. But why can Storm summon ice in space? Like,
Yeah.
she controls the elements. Like, where is the ice coming from in space? She's like encapsulating this spaceship with ice.
Yeah.
It,
Where's the water? Where's the
where's
water
the
coming
water?
from?
It's coming from nowhere. She can't just make water out of nowhere. Like, that's not what she does.
I mean, honestly, of all the things, I agree with you. First off, I think um, I don't think there's enough atmosphere at that point. Although there probably is some atmosphere, I don't think there's enough for her to make that level of ice. There's definitely not enough water floating around at that altitude for her to make ice. None.
Well, no, there's not. And then, well, and that's just the beginning, okay? Because Storm in the comics and the cartoons that I watched growing up, she was super powerful, man. Like, she was, um, I think she's even worshipped, right, in Africa, like in from her like hometown in Africa. Like, they almost see her as a deity, like, because she can control the elements. And in this movie, she's fighting this guy who has weird hair. He's got these dreads that he can throw at people,
Oh yeah.
and she's
Oh yeah.
getting beat up by Dread Guy. Like, she can fly and shoot lightning at this dude, and he's beating her up.
Okay. Also, how disappointed were you that the dreadlock guy was not Bishop? He
Yeah,
looked just like Bishop. He
yeah,
dressed just like Bishop. And I was like, okay, he's gonna have those cool Bishop powers where he absorbs energy and then he brings it back like twice as hard. And then he starts whipping his dreadlocks around. I was like, I don't remember Bishop doing the hair thing. That's not Bishop. Why does he look like Bishop?
yeah. Like,
I was so mad.
yeah. So it was ridiculous. First off, who even knows who that guy is? Like, he just comes out of nowhere. He has the worst powers in the world, and somehow he's beating up Storm, who's one of the most powerful X-Men, and is completely ridiculous. And then at the end of the movie, Storm comes out of the top of the train, and there's a million of those aliens that are super powerful. And she's just like freaking Thor all of a sudden. She's just like, lightning everyone, you're all dead, And I'm like, what? Why can you do this to these aliens and you couldn't fight Dread Guy? Like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? And then you've got Cyclops. Cyclops, all he has to do is look at something to shoot it, right?
Right.
And he can't hit anything. He's fighting Beast, and Beast is 3 feet in front of him, and Beast is this hulking guy, and he can't shoot him. I'm just like, look at Beast and shoot him. Like, what?
he can't he just can't focus, right? He's too distracted. There's too much going on. There's cars. Oh, by the way, there are cars on the street. Are cars not made of metal anymore in 1992? Are cars
Apparently
not
not.
made of metal that Magneto has to reach down into the earth and pull a subway car to block the X-Men from getting into the building? I mean, look, it's a cool scene. I get that they're just going for cool, but
It
he's got
didn't.
all the cars. He's got all the cars.
It wasn't cool to me because they jacked it up so much.
Yeah.
And then okay, but here's the thing. Okay, Cyclops misses Magneto, misses Beast a million times, and then he runs into the building where Jean is, and the alien chick is holding her, right? Like holding her like a hostage, and he has this like 2-inch area where he can hit her,
Yeah.
and he just goes shoots it like perfectly, hits that small little spot, and doesn't hit Jean at all. Perfect shot,
And he couldn't hit Beast. He couldn't hit Beast out on the street 3 seconds earlier.
yeah, yeah, and then he's like, and I'm just thinking, are his glasses like doubling as virtual reality glasses, and he's gaming while he's fighting at the same time?
Yeah,
That's what
maybe it's the same character from Ready Player One.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
he's just
playing both Ready Player One and Cyclops at the
yeah,
same time.
he's just distracted, man. He's
Yeah.
driving backwards, and trying to fight Beast at the same time.
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
but no, it was ridiculous, and it was just all of everything with the powers except for Magneto, right? Like Magneto was fantastic. The way he just crunches that train car and
All right, so Michael Fassbender has done a terrific job of playing Magneto. His storyline from X-Men Apocalypse is the only reason to watch that movie.
Mhm,
My
true.
beef is Magneto, Eric Lenscher, the character, by the time we get to 1992, is 62 years old. He's 8 years from becoming Sir Ian McKellen for for the first X-Men movie, which takes place in the year 2000.
Well, he just aged really well, and
Aged
then
really
and then
well in the
instantly
new
not so well.
continuity. Yeah, he's aged really well in the new continuity. Um, yeah, maybe he hits menopause or something in the next 8 years and just gets really old real quick. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but he was honestly, I felt so I disagree with you a little bit with the last two movies as far as him being the only reason to watch it. In my opinion, the best reason to watch it was Quicksilver,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. But they sidelined Quicksilver in this movie.
they
He doesn't
sidelined him.
he doesn't get the chance to be quippy and to be cute and fun, and he is really fun. There's a lot of the X-Men movie is not fun because Wolverine kind of does the heavy lifting on the comic relief.
Right.
And he's not in the last two movies. So you got to have somebody to take over that role. And he's a different flavor of comic relief, but he does a good job
Yeah.
when he's in
And
it.
yeah, and he's great, and so many people are saying that was my favorite scene in the movie from the last two movies, right? It's Quicksilver, myself included. And so this is why I have this theory of what they did with this movie. They went online and they had somebody go online and find all the things that people were saying they wanted to see from this movie, and they made this giant list, and then they said, okay, we have this comprehensive list. We are going to now make sure that anything that is on this list will not be in this movie. That's what I feel like they did.
Yeah, you know what? That's exactly what they did. They said, let's make an X-Men movie that'll make people glad Disney bought Fox.
And maybe Disney had a hand in that. Like let's make it just so bad that everybody's screaming for us to make X-Men better.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but they did do Magneto well. I loved Magneto in this movie. So many things made me cringe in this movie. So many things. But Magneto, I love how he is that character that he wants to be a good guy, but he just has these like evil guy tendencies that he can't get over, and he just when something happens to set him off, he goes into evil guy mode and he can't stop himself. And that's just kind of what happens. And so he has these moments where he's like, I'm evil guy again, and he has to get snapped out of that. And it's just this kind of vicious cycle with him, but they stay consistent with that, and seeing his character develop the way that he does, becoming a leader and helping people, and then snapping, that was really true to the character that they've built for him, and was really good character development for him, and they stayed consistent. And Fassbender is fantastic at portraying that.
I
Um,
yeah, I 100% agree. And I will say that I don't think Magneto has an evil guy mode. I think he's just the kind he's super powerful and he gets fed up, right? His
okay,
his tolerance for bad behavior is really low. And and he's seen too many loved ones get killed that he has a low threshold for misbehavior, and he's very powerful. And so when It's like when a dad um, goes to spank their kid, but instead of a hand, he's got like a nuclear warhead, you know. So it's overkill. It's overkill. But I think it's just it's a side effect of the fact that he's so powerful and he sees all these injustices and he can't tolerate them.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, it's a mode that he goes into where he starts doing bad things.
Yeah, for sure.
and and so it's but it's really cool to see his character kind of switch that, flip that switch. Fassbender does it so well. And really, like, I felt like he was the only, like, not wasted talent in the movie.
But he kind of was too, though, right? Because he wasn't the central figure of this movie. He was basically a side character. He didn't even show up until the last half of the movie.
Well, and you could say that too, that it was kind of wasted because the movie overall was kind of terrible. But but yeah, I agree. Like, if he was, but I felt like he was in it enough to be kind of, he was a supporting character, but I feel like he was kind of still in it enough to call him like one of the main characters of the show. Um, so I felt
Yeah.
like he had a big role. But
See, I think that the way that they approached it in this movie was different than the way they approached it in X3. In X3, they treated Jean Grey / Dark Phoenix as a force of nature. That she was going to do what she was going to do. She really didn't have any control over it herself. She's just a force of nature. And it was between Charles and Magneto that it was this kind of battle of ideals of between those two. And so the movie was really more about the X-Men ideals versus the Brotherhood of Mutants ideals. And Jean Grey never had a choice. And I think that was probably why that movie, it was one of the main reasons why that movie didn't succeed, because Jean Grey does have a choice and she should be making that choice herself. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this movie suffered. They did put the focus on Jean. And again, she's not making a lot of choices on her own. Um, but she does make the final choice, which is whether she's going to accept the Phoenix Force or not.
right. And I felt like that was a little bit part of the movie felt made me feel like the first Hulk movie, you know, when
Oh yeah,
he's like, you want the power, take it, and then he's like, no, it's too much. Like,
yeah, for
it
sure.
kind of made me feel like that. But there were some good things about it. Like, they did some things that were okay, but it just didn't mesh well. Like, having Jean Grey play a bigger part and have more of a say in what was happening with the whole overall story arc was a good idea, but still poorly executed, because really it's a much more compelling story to have the Phoenix not be Dark Phoenix from the beginning. Have the Phoenix be the guardian of the galaxy. It has its own sentience, and when it's in Jean Grey, it, it's taking over her, and she's not Jean anymore. She's Phoenix, right?
Right.
And when she becomes Dark Phoenix, it's because she's in this human body. She's experiencing the dark side of things. She's kind of liking it, and she's kind of experimenting with that side. And that's just so much more of a compelling story than, oh, there's this power that's like making me freak out. Like, that's the whole story that they decided to run with, and they ran with it twice. They did the same thing two times, and it's not, the whole story arc is not a compelling way to go about it.
Well, the Phoenix Force storyline makes a lot of sense if you have a young Jean Grey, because anytime you have this kind of, oh, there's this power welling up inside me and I don't know how to control it, that's a metaphor for puberty,
Right.
essentially, right? And so it makes sense to have a young person do that part. When you have Famke Janssen now in her third movie, doing essentially playing the pubescent Phoenix, it doesn't really work as well. And she does come across more as like a force of nature than as someone who's learning what it means to be adult, that you have a lot of power, but you have to keep it in check pretty much 100% of the time. Um, and so, at least with the younger actors, with um, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on her name, Sophie.
Sophie Turner, is that what it is?
Yeah, Sophie Turner, Mrs. Joe Jonas. At least with her, she's young, and so it makes sense to have her play that part because it does kind of bring to mind puberty, right? And that's essentially the metaphor that type of thing plays. And it's always been X-Men, right? X-Men has always been about discovering yourself
Right.
as you get older, and most of their powers manifest during puberty. And so it's just kind of another layer of that same metaphor. But um, they didn't execute it real super well. I I would have liked to see more more of the choices being made, right? Where she's saying, "Oh, well, I'm hurting the people around me. I really need to rein it in," and then it just gets out of control, and then she's like, "Oh, well, I gotta take care of myself," and eventually it does get to that point where she's making a choice and it turns into sacrifice, which is a very adult decision. And so I did appreciate a lot of the themes. I know you didn't like the movie as much as I did, which is not to say that I liked it a whole lot. It was okay. It was an okay movie for me. Um, it had a ton of problems. Oh man, so many problems.
Well, here's one of the last things that I want to say as far as what I didn't like about this movie. Charles Xavier, right? Everything that I've ever seen of Charles Xavier, from when I read the comics when I was young to the 90s cartoon to the older X-Men, Charles Xavier was always like the rock, like the guy that everybody could turn to. He was always like wise and making the right decisions, and was kind of the just the person that everybody looked up to and could turn to as a leader, right? And in this movie they made him the biggest douche. Like, he's at that press conference and he literally says, all I did was make a world where your children can have peace, and I'm like,
Yeah. Okay,
you
Jesus.
you pompous douche, like you are the biggest jerk. And then he in the last Phoenix movie, in X3, Xavier suppressed Jean's powers so she didn't hurt people, and so that was the decision he made because he didn't know what else to do. Whereas in this movie, he suppresses her memories just because, oh, I'm going to mess with her brain because I feel like it'll be better for her, And it was just like, no, Xavier would never do that. Like, that's not what he does. He doesn't mess with little kids' brains like that. And it it was making me cringe and so mad during the whole movie that they took this iconic character that's always so noble and so wise and in making the right decisions, and they just turned him into this like total jerk, and it really bugged me that they did that. And I know that people who are not as big of fans as X-Men, that wouldn't bother them as much.
Yeah.
Like, like my wife went and saw X-Men. She's like, "Oh, I thought it was pretty good," like because she doesn't know the characters like I do. So if you're more of a fan of X-Men, that might like, hit a nerve a lot more. But yeah, man, I couldn't believe how much they changed his character. And they had in Days of Future Past, when he was at a low point in his life and he was kind of drinking and he was taking that serum to make his powers go away. And and that was a little more understandable to me. It was like, okay, he was younger, he had a low point in his life, but then he got kicked out of it, and it's like, okay, now he can be Xavier again,
Yeah.
and be the Xavier that we know and lead the X-Men. But then it just seems like the rest of his life he continues to just be a jerk who's making bad decisions and can't lead anybody, and it really bugged me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see why that would bug you. For me, the encapsulation of everything you're saying is the conversation that Xavier has in the kitchen with Beast. And Beast is trying to get him to admit that he was wrong, and he never does. And that's not the Charles Xavier that we all know. The Charles Xavier we know would say, "Yeah, you know what? I don't know if what I did was right. I did it because I thought it would save lives, and that was the best I could do at the time. I didn't know if it was right, and maybe it'll turn out to be the wrong decision, but I'm just doing the best I can." And I think that's more of how Patrick Stewart played the character in X3. Um, and of course, he gets dusted in X3, but it's more true to that character that he has noble ends. He's willing to admit if he's wrong, but he does it with good intentions anyway. And whereas in Dark Phoenix, Charles Xavier is, look, I'm always right. You know that I'm always right because I'm the best guy in the room. I'm the best guy in every room. So yeah, I'm not wrong here. I did what I did, and if you don't like it, there's the door.
Right. And I never knew Xavier to do things that were just completely blatantly immoral, you know. Like you said, he was always like trying to do the right thing. Maybe he made missteps that it wasn't the right decision ultimately, but it wasn't just like a blatantly immoral act that he did, like, like messing with the kid's brain for no reason, just because he thought it would make her feel better. You can't remove things from people's lives like that and act like it's okay. um so it was just, to me, it was kind of a betrayal of his history as a character. And another thing that I think that is going a lot, in filmmakers' minds very, recently in the past few years, is there's this equivalency of being fallible makes you interesting, makes a character interesting. Like they're the same thing. Like, well, if we make this character fallible, he's going to be more interesting. And it's like, well, there are certain times where you can implement that idea and it works. But then there's other times where you do that and it just pisses people off, and they're I feel like they're not an equivalent, but a lot of filmmakers are thinking that they are. It's something that a lot of people were mad about with like Luke Skywalker, for example. Um, and I think that they need to get this idea out of their heads that being fallible makes you interesting, because I don't think that that's correct.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I think it's about choices, right? Stories should be about choices, and obviously, the bigger the choice, the more important that character is, the morals of the character. And if you don't have a morality associated with a particular character that you can rely on, um, then it produces weakness in the structure. But at the same time, I think the fallibility they're going for is like dimension, right? They don't want to have a character that doesn't change through a movie. That said, it seems like Charles has already gone through this transformation
Right.
uh, from First Class to Days of Future Past, even in Apocalypse. He does the I know everything to, you know what, sometimes I screw up. He's already done that. And for him to go back on it, to retread the same territory is disingenuous. And I think it's lazy writing. I think they were trying to take shortcuts with the characters, and it showed in the movie. But at the same time, I think the main problem with the movie is that it is actually not the way that they planned it. They either should have gone back and reshot the whole thing, or just
I
committed to
agree
it
with
and said,
that one.
we're gonna do what we're gonna do, and whether that upsets Disney or not, we don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that attitude too. But I like your first idea more, reshooting the whole thing.
Yeah, let's start over. Let's start from the very beginning.
But all right, so let's just kind of like do a brief synopsis, what our thoughts were, and what rating would you give Dark Phoenix?
Okay, so um, anybody who follows me on Facebook knows that I did I'd like to do like 4-line reviews for movies. My 4-line review for this one was that um, this was the same storyline from X3, which is by far the least popular of the original X-Men trilogy. And there was no Wolverines in this movie. And I love to have plenty of Wolverines in my X-Men movies. Logan, which is the best X-Men movie, had 3.5 Wolverines in it. And so Dark Phoenix and the follow-up to Apocalypse, neither one of those movies had a Wolverine in it. Not even like a cutout picture stapled to one of the characters' faces. You know, at least Deadpool put Hugh Jackman's face in the movie. So the fact that there's no Wolverine,
he bugged him enough, and that's all he could get.
Yeah, you know what? You know what, Ryan? You could go ahead and put my face on your face in the movie, but you got to staple it. Yeah, so I think the fact that there's no Wolverine in this movie, and not enough Quicksilver to make up for the lack of Wolverine, means that it's not a good quality X-Men movie. I gave it, my rating system is based on how much money I'm willing to spend. A 3 out of 5 means that I'm okay that I spent money to see this movie one time, but I would not spend money to see it a second time. And that's how I feel. It was okay. It was just okay. Yeah, it didn't offend my sensibilities though, to the point where I'm like, I need my money back. I want a refund. Now, we will talk about another movie. I will talk about another movie that did offend my sensibilities, but we're not there yet.
Okay. So for me, you know, I felt like the power inconsistencies were just way too much. I felt like the continuity issues were just way too obvious and because lots of movies have continuity issues you can brush over. Not so much here. It's like this just blatantly completely different than the last movie. It was almost not a sequel anymore. The and then Charles Xavier obviously changing, you know, having his character be the way that it is. Hated that. But I loved Fassbender. Fassbender's fantastic. His character was great. I loved the development of his character. Some of the visuals were really cool. The train fight scene was really fun. It had a lot of really good effects, like the visuals, especially in the second half of the movie, were done really really well. Um, but they left out Quicksilver. They didn't have a Wolverine. They didn't even mention Wolverine. Um, so for me, there were a few good items about it, but wholly it was not great, and I'd probably give it a 2.
Yeah, 2 is you wish you hadn't spent money on it.
2 is, yeah. I mean, technically, I have a pass where I can see 3 movies a week, but yeah, I'm not happy I spent my time watching it.
Can't get that back.
Yeah, exactly. So, cool. There it is, guys. So we're out of spoiler warning territory. Sam, we're talking about Dead Don't Die. Lead us into that.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you have seen trailers for it. The Dead Don't Die is a so-called zombie movie. It stars Bill Murray as police chief in Centerville, Pennsylvania. Adam Driver is his deputy. Chloe Sevigny plays another police officer. And things just, what happens is, because of polar fracking, the world is shifted off its axis, and that creates some weird moonbeams, and then the zombies come back from the dead and they start killing everybody, or rather turning everybody else into zombies. And
Moonbeams.
Yeah,
zombies. That sounds amazing.
Well, here's the thing. Like they're clearly going for B movie territory. But my real big problem with it. So in the very opening scene, Bill Murray and Adam Driver go to meet some hermit in the woods, and the hermit in the woods tells them to F off. They get back in their car and they're driving they're driving back to the police station, and the theme song is playing, and it's this very kind of folksy tune by um, Stu Symington or Stu Symington or something. I don't remember the guy's name, but the name of the song is "The Dead Don't Die," and it's very folksy, and it's kind of a metaphor saying that people who walk around with pursuing materialistic goals are the dead, and they don't die. They just keep propagating, and they don't realize they're dead. And so it tells you right away what the message is of this movie, which is that the dead or the zombies are real people who are materialistic, who are stupid, who are anti-environmental, who vote Republican, um, and it's very clearly a political statement they're trying to make with this movie.
Okay.
And the reason why I know is because as they're driving back to the police station, Bill Murray's police chief asks Adam Driver, "What is this song? I feel like I've heard it before." And Adam Driver's character turns to Bill Murray's character and says, "Well, yeah, we just heard it a second ago. It's the theme song to this movie." He breaks character. It's no longer a police chief and his deputy driving to the station. It's Bill Murray and Adam Driver talking about the parts that they're playing, like they forgot that they were in a movie.
Like trying to be Deadpool, but not.
Well, it's not breaking the fourth wall, right? Breaking the fourth wall is I'm the character and I'm speaking to the audience directly.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's
So
breaking the fourth wall, but I stay in character, right? Zach Morris, timeout. He doesn't say, "I'm Mark Paul Gosselaar and I'm playing Zach Morris," and you're supposed to understand what Zach Morris is thinking at this point. That's not what happens, right? He doesn't break character.
Yeah.
He stays Zach Morris when he times out, right?
Right. So breaking the fourth wall would also be like Ferris Bueller, end of Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, that's fourth wall, right? Yeah. He's looking at the audience, talking to the audience. In other words, he's aware that he's a character, or maybe not aware that he's a character, but he's aware that he's being observed.
Right.
And so he's telling the audience something. Breaking character is, I'm no longer the character. I'm stepping outside the production, and I am now the actor again. Right? In other words, this is a movie and I'm an actor. I'm not a character in this moment. I'm breaking character. And I didn't appreciate that at all. I thought that was cheap. I thought it wasn't clever. It made the fact that this was a movie unimportant. It means that the story is irrelevant. What's important here is the message. And we're going to tell a story, and it's not going to make any sense unless you know that it's also a political statement. They then go on at the end of the movie. There's a scene where Bill Murray's character is talking to Adam Driver's character, and he says, "How do you know that things are going to end up badly? You keep saying everything's going to end up badly." And he says, "Well, you really want to know?" And he goes, "Well, I read the whole script. I read the whole script. The director gave me the whole script, and I read it all the way to the end." And then, so that's Adam Driver now talking to Bill Murray, not the deputy talking to the sheriff. Right. It's Adam Driver talking to Bill Murray. And then Bill Murray says, "Oh, well, the director only gave me my own scenes. I haven't read the whole thing."
Wow.
That's interesting that he would give you all of it and only me part of it. And it's like, why are you doing this? And then there's this one scene where Selena Gomez basically makes her appearance in the movie. She's talking to some convenience store clerk, and as she's like very nice to him, and Selena Gomez is very pretty, and as she turns to leave, there's like visible sparkles behind her, right? Like a sparkly halo appears above her head. It doesn't happen for any other character, and it doesn't happen at all the rest of the movie. There's nothing like that. There's no like sparkly halos on anybody else.
Was she a vampire?
And it's just 100% out of place. And then Adam Driver goes to the motel where Selena Gomez is staying, and he and Bill Murray are standing there talking to the motel owner, and then Selena Gomez comes out and she goes, "Does any of you have change?" And she walks up and they change her $3. They give her a bunch of quarters, and then she walks back into her motel room, and Adam Driver goes, she's part Mexican. It's like, what? What do you mean she's part Mexican? He goes, well, I love Mexicans, and I can tell that she's part Mexican.
I don't even get that.
Yeah, what is the message? Like, why are you bringing that up? What's the point of talking about Selena Gomez's Mexicanality? Yeah, what's the point of it? What's the point? And why is that even important to the story that she's Mexican? Okay, so I've thought a lot about it, and the only thing that makes any sense. Okay, one more thing about the movie. They keep saying the dead don't die unless you kill the head. You got to kill the head, or the dead don't die. To kill the dead, you got to kill the head. Right? They keep saying that. Kill the head, kill the head, kill the head. And to me, because it watches so poorly, because it plays so poorly as a zombie movie or as a horror movie, the only thing that makes sense is this is a political statement, right? And when they say kill the head, what they mean is get Trump out of office. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
No,
The whole
well,
thing,
yeah,
the
or
whole
that,
thing
or
plays,
murder.
yeah. The whole thing plays is like the horror that Democrats experienced when Trump was elected to office. Oh, also, there's an alien. Tilda Swinton plays an alien that just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, at the beginning, you're like, okay, well, she's this kind of really cool samurai lady, and she's killing all the zombies. And then, oh, she can also hack computers. She's really good at hacking. She's terrible at makeup, but she's really good at hacking. And then she goes to meet Bill Murray and Adam Driver in the cemetery. But instead of helping them, she gets beamed up into a spaceship and flies away. What? What the heck's happening? It is so insulting. Like, it's not even that it's dumb. It's that it's insulting to the audience. Between the breaking character, between the random lines about Selena Gomez being Mexican, and the alien and the kill the head, it's like, why didn't you just make a political hit piece saying we should not elect Trump? Why didn't you just go ahead and go all the way with it and say don't elect Trump back into office?
Yeah,
That's what they should have done.
Instead of making a movie, like a terrible movie out of it, like you would want it to at least be entertaining at that point, right? I mean,
yeah, it was so infuriating, and I did laugh a lot. I laughed a whole lot because I thought it was ridiculous. I thought the joke was that I had spent money to see the movie. I thought that was so funny. So funny that they tricked me into seeing this movie and wasting 2 hours of my night to watch this political assassination. And Adam Driver just keeps going, this is not going to end well. The world has spun off its axis. It's not going to end well. And they keep talking about fracking and how, it's like the anti-environmentalists are in denial and everything's falling apart and the dead are rising from the grave. And it turns out they're all Republicans. So it was just a waste of time. I mean, not that movies can't be political. They sure can. But don't insult me. Don't insult me by pretending that this is a movie when it's not a movie. It's not about zombies. I found it 100% insulting, and I hope that no one sees this movie. I really do hope that no one sees this movie.
Well, that's too late, man, because you already saw it.
I saw it, and I will tell everybody who's listening to me, don't see this movie. It's garbage. IGN gave it a 7.8 out of 10.
Okay.
I can't believe that anybody graded this movie. They must have been playing a different movie in that theater because it is 100% garbage, and I want my money back.
Well, I hope that you get it.
Yeah.
But I really hadn't even heard about this movie before, honestly.
Yeah, you should watch a trailer for it and then realize that it's 100% lies. It's a lie. It's all a lie.
Well, let's move on to the end here. We're kind of hitting our mark. Um, so upcoming movies that we're excited about for 2019. What are you looking forward to for throughout the year?
Next up is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Looking forward to that. I think they are lying to us in the trailers to that one also. Um, so I'm not the first one to say this, but I may be the first one on Couch Crunchers to say it, and that is, I don't think Mysterio is from an alternate Earth. I don't think he's from an alternate Earth at all.
Okay.
Um, they say, "Oh, are you talking about the multiverse? He's from a different Earth." And I don't think that's true. I don't think he's from a different Earth. I think he's just looking for attention. He's out there trying to get attention. He's from our Earth, but he's a bad dude, and he's trying to get a new start and maybe get some street cred by saying he's from the multiverse. Um, there's a lot of reasons why I think that's suspect. Primarily, um, the writers to Endgame didn't know that they were planning on using a multiverse for Far From Home. And
Okay.
that seems very suspicious to me.
Yeah.
Now, that said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which often uses kind of similar themes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, they are having a multiverse storyline right now. So that kind of weighs, both things could be happening, but I don't think so. I mean, I just don't think so. I think he's a liar. Mysterio is supposed to be a villain, and we all know he's a villain. And in his first appearance, he kind of did the same thing in the comics, right? Where he presents himself as an ally to Spider-Man, as a
Yeah.
friend, and then it turns out he was playing Spider-Man all along.
Well, he's playing Samuel L. Jackson too.
Nick Fury,
Yeah, Nick Fury.
yeah,
So yeah, it'll be interesting. That's. I mean, I honestly don't know a lot about Mysterio, so um, so that's gonna
he's the guy with the fishbowl on his head.
right. Yeah, no, I know that part. But yeah, that's an interesting take. I wonder where they're gonna go with that. The other thing is too, when I was watching it, that kind of goes along with what you were saying is I was a little bit confused about because it seems like the same uh area, I guess, when he is with MJ and MJ does the whole thing where she's like, "You're Spider-Man," and he's like, "Well, I'm not Spider-Man." I was like, why is MJ there? Because it seems like at this point he's supposed to be in the alternate universe. That's what it felt like to me anyway. So um so I was a little bit confused about that part. So that seems very like a very likely scenario to me.
For
Um,
sure.
for me, I'm like I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to Stuber. I think that's going to be a funny movie. That's just kind of my one-off comedy that I'm looking forward to. Um, the Joker movie, even though it just doesn't, it's not going to tie into anything really well. Um, the way it looks standalone, just as a standalone movie, looks fantastic. But definitely my number one movie that I'm looking forward to the most is Episode 9, Star Wars Episode 9.
Oh yeah. That comes out at Christmas time.
Yeah, and I think it looks fantastic so far. I like that they are adding in the elements from the original trilogy. They're trying to get that nostalgia back, which was definitely something that should have been in the last movie but wasn't executed very well. Um, they had elements from those movies, but the nostalgia wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Um,
Tyler, I'm disappointed you didn't mention the 47 meters down sequel.
if I would have known that there was a first one, I might have mentioned that.
47 meters down. It was a Mandy Moore shark attack movie.
Mandy Moore Shark Attack movie.
Yeah.
Well, I have to see this now because
She
there is
doesn't
nothing.
sing. She doesn't sing in it. So if you're hoping for her singing Candy or Missing You Like Candy, it's not going to happen.
Well, but how many heads do the sharks have in this movie?
Yeah, that's a great question. They should have at least seven. At least seven. They got to outdo sci-fi's six shark head attack.
No, but I mean, just watching the trailer for Star Wars, the very first scene where Rey jumps over that Tie Fighter or jumps onto it, whatever she's doing, um, you can tell that they have improved because somebody went to Rey and trained her to not look like a total dummy when she runs. Like she has the dumbest run in Force Awakens. Like I'm like, who taught you how to do that?
Oh yeah.
but but she's in great shape. She's somebody like looks like they taught her how to run, and the just the visual effects look like they're taking it up a notch. You know, her jump over on that Tie Fighter looked really smooth. And then adding in those elements, I think it looks really great. And I hope that some of the issues that people had with episode 8 can be overcome, at least some of them, so that there can be some more Star Wars hype because I love Star Wars. I want there to be more hype, and then I'm excited for that to happen. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Any more thoughts, Sam? Anything else you thought of for additional movies you're excited about?
Yeah, so there's a new Rambo movie coming out.
Oh yeah.
And I'm hoping that they tie the message up from the first Rambo. I don't know if you're a big Rambo fan or action movie fan, but the first Rambo movie was about how, being careful how we treat our veterans, because these people are, it's like a cautionary tale, right? If you don't treat our veterans, who are all trained killers, if you don't treat them well, bad things happen. And that message kind of gets lost in the sequels, right? Because he just goes back out to war and he kills a bunch of people, and the message of treating your veterans well, or having some kind of moral at the end of the story, is lost, in place of just killing everybody. Um, so I'm hoping that they bring back some kind of morality for us uh, to really follow along with.
Well, I think
Um,
I think Sylvester Stallone is kind of focused on that. Like, the last Rambo movie was very much that way. It was a little bit less action, more of focusing on um, who the Rambo character was and what he wanted to portray to his audience. So I feel like Sylvester Stallone is kind of at his older years, going back to his characters and being like, this is what I wanted you to get out of my career.
yeah, and there's a couple other horror movies I'm looking forward to. So the Zombieland sequel,
Oh yeah.
another Zomcom. I hope that it's much better than Dead Don't Die. Also, there's a The Shining sequel called
Oh
Doctor
yeah.
Sleep that we just got the trailer for this week. Those are, the horror movie can also embrace a lot of other types of genres. Um, and The Shining and this Doctor Sleep movies both look to be very mysterious as well as being very scary. So, um,
Well, The Shining scared the poop out of me when I was a kid. So
oh yeah, it's terrifying. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
cool, man. All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for us.
Oh, one more
Oh yeah.
thing. I just want to make a shameless plug. I started a Facebook page called Stories for Friends, and mostly it's just me writing stories for my friends. But if anybody wants to come visit Stories for Friends, just look up Stories for Friends on Facebook and join the page.
Oh, cool. I will definitely check it out, man. We're friends, right? I can go check those out.
Yeah, absolutely, we're friends.
All right, man. Cool. Go ahead and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are writing articles all the time. And then, of course, on couchcrunchers.com. Sam has a lot of content on there. I am on there too. And we're always putting up, interesting news, interesting rebuilds of movies like Sam does. And yeah, we'd love to have you. Love to have you check us out. And if there is nothing else, Sam, then I think we can say goodnight.
Well, one more thing, Tyler, and
Yeah.
I hope I'm not embarrassing you, but Tyler is going to at some point put down on paper the entire travel log of his 8 months in New Zealand pursuing the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, and I am going to I'm on the fence about this because um I want to write it, but I might do a little vlog about it and put it on the site. Um so I'll have pictures and everything that I'll put up, but I'm yet to decide if I'm going to do a vlog or a blog. So we'll see what happens.
Well, when you pull the trigger, we're all going to be better for it.
All right, thanks, man. All right, well, that's it for us, Crunchers, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.